Okay, so in this video, I would like to perform a simple analysis on a company, on a cafe called the Maven Roasters. Okay, so I have the data loaded into my Power BI desktop. So first of all, let's just explore the data set a bit, right, by going to the model section. So you can see that we have a bunch of tables related to the business. So you have the calendar table, you have the customer lookup table, right? So this is where all the customer information are stored. Right? This is about the employee, the product information, the store lookup, right? This is information about the store. And then over here, you have a very important transactions table called the sales by store. So this is where all the transactions recorded by this cafe, right, are captured. Okay, so this is a general idea about the data set. And now let's move back to the report panel, right, and look at more information about the store, right, before I look at the analysis. So I'll go over to the store lookup, and then I'll throw in a bunch of information, right, about the neighborhood, about the city, as well as the state and the store type. Okay, so over here in this table, right, you see a bunch of records about this cafe, right, this Maven Roasters. So you can see that immediately, right, this cafe is located only in New York City, right, in the state of New York. And then you have the following neighborhood, and then the store type are retail, warehouse, and retail. Okay, so I presume that the warehouse does not do any sales. Okay? So this is about the cafe. And now let's move on to analyzing the performance of this cafe. So I'm going to do just a very simple and quick analysis, and I'm going to use the function called key influencers. So this is a pretty cool and important function in Power BI. Okay, so what it does is that it helps you to understand the factors that drive a matrix that you are interested in. For example, if you want to know what drives revenue to go up or down, right? So you want to see what are the factors that affect this matrix. So you can use the key influencer function to help you to do that. So let's just do that, okay? So first of all, I go to the measure table. So I have a bunch of measures that I've created. Let's look at customer sales, right? So I want to see what drives customer sales. What are the factors that drives customer sales? So I drag it to analyze. Okay, so immediately you see that there are two tabs, right? Key influencer at the top segments. So it says that, it's trying to suggest that, what influences customer sales to increase or decrease. Okay, so let's look at what influences customer sales to decrease, right? So what are the factors that may affect us, right? So, for example, let's go to probably the transactions, the sales by store table. So I want to see, is there any effect, the transaction time has any effect on the customer sales to decrease, right? So let's drag this into explain by. Oh, so immediately you see that, it does the analysis for you. That it does the linear regression modeling for you, and it gives you this the result. So it says that when the transaction time is more than 11 a.m., so the average customer sales decreased by $56. Okay, so it shows you this nice table over here, right? So this is the average sales, and after 11 a.m., right, the sales decreased by $56. Okay, so this is this tells you that that the time, right, of the business time, transaction time, does affect the customer sales. Let's look at the top segments, right? So the top segments is another indicator of how of what affects the customer sales. So if you click on this segment, so it sees that it has quite a large amount of data. So immediately you see that it tells you that if the transaction type is before 7 a.m. or after 11 a.m., right, the average customer sales is $22.58 lower than the overall average. So you see that during this two time frame, right? So the stores tend to be less busy. Okay. What about other factors, right? So the time is clearly important. Is there any other factor that affects customer sales to decrease or increase? Let's try to go to the store lookup and look at the neighborhood, right? Probably the neighborhood, the location of the store may affect the customer sales. So we drag this in. So over here, it tells you that if the transaction time is greater than 11 a.m., the average customer sales decreased by $28, right? So what about the top segments? So that's also an indication. So if the neighborhood is in house kitchen, right? So obviously house kitchen, where is house kitchen? So this is one of their stores, right? I'm not sure where is this, right? So if the transaction time is after 10:58 or around 11 a.m., right, you see that the sales, right, is $18.10 are lower than the overall average. So again, the neighborhood does play a part. Now, what about the age, the customer? So does the customer profile affects the customer sales, right? Let's see. Let's go to the employee. Yes, okay, the customer lookup table, and we drag in the age. Okay, so you look at the key influences. Okay, so again, if there is a factor, right? So the age is also an important factor. So if the age is greater than 38 years old, right? So the total sales, average sales tends to be lower. And what about in the top segments? So you see that in the top segments, so you have quite a large bubble over here, and there's a small bubble over here. So we look at this small bubble, right? It's a small bubble because it only has about 5.3% of the data points. So it says that if the age is greater than 38 and the neighborhood is in house kitchen and the transaction type is after about 11 a.m. So the average sales tends to be lower than the overall average. And what about the other segment? Right. So in this segment, it says that if the age is greater than 38 and the neighborhood is not in Lower Manhattan, not in house kitchen, that means the neighborhood is in Astoria, right? So that, and the transaction time is after 11 a.m. So the average sale tends to be lower than the average as well. Okay, so these are some of the factors that affects customer sales to decrease. Now, what about the factors affecting customer sales to increase? So we want to see, what are the things that drives the customer sales for this cafe. Okay, let's remove all these first, right? So let's just focus on the transaction time. So again, over here, it actually correlates, right? It actually confirms the findings that we discovered about why customer sales decrease. So if the transaction type is greater than 11 a.m., right? So after 11 a.m., the stores tend to be less busy, and the stores tends to be very busy, or sales is booming during the period of 7 to 11 a.m. Okay, and what about the segments, the top segments? So it says that if the transaction time is between 7 to 11 a.m., right? The total sales is $38.87 higher than the overall average. Okay, let's bring in some of the factors like the neighborhood, right? The location of the store. I want to see if there is any effect on the higher sales. Okay, so what about the top segments? So if, as long as the neighborhood is not in house kitchen, not in Astoria, right, the transaction time is before 10:58 a.m., so you record a higher average sales than the overall average. Okay, another factor, right? What about the age of the customers? Let's see. Okay. So there are now three key factors that drives sales to increase, right? The second one is the age, right? So if the customer age is between 36 to 38, right, then the sales tends to be higher than the average. And if the neighborhood is in Lower Manhattan, right, the sales also increase. And look at the top segments. So as long as the age is greater than 36, less than 38, the neighborhood is in Lower Manhattan, transaction time is before 11 a.m. So you record a slightly higher average sales. Okay, so this is a simple analysis, right, on this Maven Roasters Cafe, right? What drives customer sales to increase and decrease?